Hello and welcome. My name is Steve, and I thought it's time we are playing Stellaris. And before we hop into a brand new galaxy and trying to discover it, conquer it, whatever we think is right, I want to do let's call it a semi-tutorial. I'm going to create my species I'm going to play during this adventure in this, let's call it episode 0, because nothing really else is going to happen. And I'm going to explain a little bit about how to create species and how I approach this. And maybe you can learn something from it. And also, if you want to play the same species, you can basically copy what I am using here. So whenever I create a species, I start with the origin, because it gives me a good idea of where I will start from, because I love the role-playing aspect of Stellaris. So I don't necessarily play to win, because I enjoy the open-endedness the game provides, and just to play a species and see whether or not it works. And so there are so many choices here, and we are going to use the subterranean. In our case, that means buildings and districts are going to be more expensive. It takes longer for them to build, and their upkeep is increased. But since we live underground, stuff like orbital bombardment does not work as much against us. And also, we do not have a limitation on mining districts. So if a planet provides 17 districts, we can actually build 17 mining districts, which is probably going to be really good, I hope. I never played Subterranean in the long run since the Overlord DLC came out. So I'm really putting this to the test, and I hope what I created in my mind is going to work, which I honestly do not know. But I'm really looking forward to it. So the next thing is the government and ethics tab I'm usually going to, because as you can see to the right, depending on what you pick, it influences your civics, as well as here what authorities you can pick. So this is always the next step I'm going. You can be militarist, which is, I think, self-explanatory. You have ships that have a bit more combat ability, and claiming systems that are already owned by another species is cheaper. Xenophobe makes expanding cheaper, because the influence costs of star bases are reduced and your own species grows faster. Next is egalitarian, which gives you more unity from your factions, and your special lists will produce more resources. Materialist means reduced robot upkeep and research speed. Pacifists means empire size from populations is reduced. To explain this a bit, when you expand, your empire gets bigger, and there's a number value to reflect that. And if you go over 100 or 200, I'm not sure right now, but if you go over a certain number, stuff like picking traditions and research gets more expensive. And with this, the impact your population has on that number is smaller, which means you can have more population compared to an empire of the same size without having extra costs for research and traditions. The next is Xenophile. It gives you more trade value and more envoys. Trade value basically is a form of energy credit income, and envoys are needed to either do espionage or diplomacy with other nations. Then we have Authoritarian, which gives you more influence per month, and the worker population will produce more resources. Then we have Spiritualists, which gives you more unity and reduced costs and upkeep for edicts. And last but not least, we have Gestalt Consciousness, which is needed in order to play the machine intelligence or the hive mind. And depending on your combination here, you can pick one of these 7. You can be a company if you want to. You can be democracy, or you can be oligarchic. You can be a dictatorship, or even an imperium, or a hive mind, or a machine intelligence. We are going to be a hive mind, which, as you can see, drastically changes what we can choose here. And as you can see here, as an example, depending on your species, you can choose or cannot choose certain civics. So after choosing ethics and authority, I go back to appearance to change the species, because that, as you have seen, affects what I'm going to be. So I'm going to be an underground hive mind of plants. That's what I'm going for. They're good. We're going to take these because that actually already fits pretty much. So I don't think I'm going to change our flag. That is a really nice coincidence, because whenever you press create new species, you get a random flag, and this one fits really good. So, and after the appearance, we go back to ethics, because now, as you can see, we can, for example, take this if we wanted to, but I'm not using this in this case, but I just use it as an example to explain this. So we have different options as a hive mind. We can play as a devouring swarm, which gives us a lot of combat abilities, but disables diplomacy, which means we can only basically destroy every other nation, which is an interesting way to play. I wouldn't recommend it if you're new to the game, because it's tricky if your only option with your neighbors is war. And if you're devouring swarm, also you're seen as more of a threat. Oh my god! And other nations are more likely to attack you. So it's a really combat-based experience, and it's a lot of fun. So there are different things. This is really nice. Subsumed Will is also one I can recommend for a hive mind, because it reduces the empire size from pops and gives you more edict funds, which is always nice. So I have completely forgotten what civics I wanted to pick. I have to check. What is it? I mean, I had an idea of what I wanted to play, and my list. I made a list. Sorry if that was a bit annoying with the paper and the microphone, but I wrote everything down except for the civics I picked. So, I have no idea what I was going for. So I have to improvise, which is also interesting. So, knowledge, no. I'm so glad I decided not to make this an tutorial, but then again, if I would have made it an official tutorial video, I probably would have wrote a script. So yeah, now we are going to this because habitability blah, 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 is good, even though we have like at least 50% anyway because of our origin, which is extremely helpful. But the pop amenity usage might also help. God. I'm pretty sure I'm going to find out what I wanted to do as soon as comes into play. So subspace yeah, I'm not good at pronouncing certain words, but hey, not being able to say certain things can be fun. Is really good for warfare, especially since ships get faster, but you will get a third civic point down the line, so I'm not going to pick it now. But while playing, this is a really important information and something to keep in mind when you're playing with your, or when you're creating your species. If there's something that is really good but not important for the beginning, it just helps to keep it in the back of your head for later and just pick something that is going to be better for the beginning. So, and I am going with one mind. The Unity boost is probably going to be helpful because Unity is a resource you will need to get traditions as well as to recruit leaders. So let's do this. So after we chose our appearance and now this is done, we can go with a species name. You can write whatever you want. I usually just go to random because that's good enough for me. The name of the species is not that important for me. You can even write a whole biography of your species, like how they came to be and what struggles they had before they reached space travel, etc. Next is the name list. You basically just choose how your leaders are named, the planets, base names, fleets, ships. I'm going to pick a Planetoid 3 and the ship prefix, I'm going to go with Leaf. Why not? The next really really interesting thing is traits, and sometimes you have required traits like these, like Hive-Minded and Cave Dweller, which come from our origin and our ethics. And these are ones you cannot get rid of at any point during your playthrough. You can change these later on through genetic engineering of your species, but these basically are required and you will never lose them. For example, living underground will give your population reduced pop growth speed. So yeah, your population will grow slower, so your economy might snowball a little bit slower. So that's also something you have to keep in mind if you play certain things. So, and as you can see, here are so many choices, and here are all these that I cannot pick because of the choices I made in Origins and Government Ethics. And that's why I do the other two first, because yeah, otherwise you would pick stuff here that you really like, and then suddenly you realize that doesn't work the way I want it to, and therefore let's see what we are going to pick. So I am definitely going with budding to get an increase in my pop growth. I mean, there are two ways to do that. Either you go with rabbit breeders, which gives you a flat 10%, or you go with budding, which gives you a fixed 0.02, which is better in the long run from my point of view, and also only available if you're a plant. So I'm basically using the better version compared to rabbit breeding. So then we take a few negative points because you only have a certain amount of trade points you can pick. You can pick up to 5 trades, but you only have 2 points. So if you take more good ones, you have to pick a few bad ones to balance this out. I'm going to pick unruly and solitary because sedentary, not solitary, because these two are not that important to me. Having a bigger impact from pops on empire size is okay if you have the economy to combat that, and getting less population from immigration and having to pay a little bit more to resettle pops is also not a big deal. So now that means we have 2 trades left to pick and 3 points we can spend. So if you're focused on science, I can really recommend intelligent. That's a really good trade. But I am going with industrious simply because we have increased costs to build buildings, so having minerals produced a little bit more efficiently is absolutely a must-have from my point of view. If you want to specialize, for example, in a specific field of research, you can pick one of these 3. They're exclusive, so you cannot have all 3 of them, which is kind of sad, but it would be too powerful if you have all 3 of them. And I am going to take traditional simply because it is a nice addition to the one mind I picked. My initial plan was to go with strong because my workers would produce a little bit more resources and my armies would be more powerful, which is always a nice thing, but yeah, I'm going to go with traditional for the beginning. Later on within the playthrough I can still gene edit my population to take this out when I either have a massive surplus of unity or unity becomes less important to my play progress. So next stuff is the Homeworld. I'm picking a desert world for role playing purposes. As I said, I love role playing, and so the reason why we are plants that live underground is basically just because, yeah, our world completely dried up and we needed a way to survive, so we went underground. That's something that is really simple and makes a lot of sense. Sadly, since we are underground, we cannot change our city appearance, but then again, that's not that important. It's just a little bit of fluff when you open the planetary overview. But I'm going with, yeah, I don't know. Let's go with the Necroid City, why not? So origin and ethics are done. Then we have an advisor voice that will accompany us when certain things happen. So if you miss the visual cue, you will have an audio cue that tells you what happens. And
Faith manages.
The self is a prison from which only we have escaped.
So yeah, depending on which voice you pick, you have a nice person that helps you. I'm staying with Hive Mind, so our empire name is going to be the Collective. That's nice. Here you can customize your flag, and if you're getting into it, you can spend a lot of time here, and sometimes I spend way too much time finding a flag that I like, because as you can see, there are so many options. And we're now almost through. We are now at the ship appearance, where you have a lot of different options, which all look really cool. I love the ship designs. So they're really nice. I love the aquatic ships because they are just so shiny. But we're plantoids, so we're going with plantoid ships, and you can see here how they look further down, and I love the plantoid ship design. It's one of my absolute favorites. And yeah, then the last thing is a name and an appearance of your rulers, and I really hope there are going to be more options in the future. We have here a few color variants. Oh, I like the blue one. And then you can basically, choose a room where your species resides in. I'm going to pick the 7 because that's really nice. And yeah, that's basically it. Now you can save your species if you want to play it a couple of times, or you click just done if you just want to play this one time. And yeah, that's basically it. Thanks for watching. Oh my god, this took way longer than I expected. I thought I would be done in like 10 to 15 minutes. Now we're almost at 25. That is great. But yeah, that's how I create species in Stellaris. Hope you enjoyed, and yeah, check out the Let's Play that is going to follow this video. Bye bye, see ya!